Greetings, creeps. Welcome back to Hallowscream, radio for haunters, Halloween junkies, and the members of the UK Halloween prop making Facebook group. This week we have some creepy content for you, including a list of zombie-themed tutorials, a triple feature on the Wretched review, and even some tips on the lore. The nights are starting to get dark earlier and earlier. And if you are like me, my putrid patrons, you are likely trying to gauge what the weather will be doing. I do it every year, worry and worry. But it always ends the same. The weather doesn't make its mind up until the day. So my advice, just keep your eye on it from day to day. Be prepared if you do need to switch it up for bad weather. But whatever you do, ignore those news headlines. I'm sure you've all seen some of them claiming there'll be snow this Halloween. And you know what? There probably will be. But who wants to bet that snow is in some random village on some Shetland island, and nowhere near the rest of the country? They love a scare story, even more than our favourite horror flicks, so ignore them, and like I said, take it day by day. So, now I think it's time we just get into it, and check out this week's Haunting Inspirations.
Haunting Inspirations.
Ah, hello there, creeps. I see you've returned to Haunting Inspirations. I can't tell if you're brave or just deranged. Either way, we have some great home haunts to check out this week, kiddies, so be sure to follow those links in the description and pay them a visit. Our first video this week is from More Merlin Magic on YouTube. It's a video of their More Scares in Prestatyn, UK. The 2018 video of More Scares Haunt is brilliant. It's a daytime walkthrough of the haunt, but you get a really good look at someone that's utilised everything they have to build their haunt. It starts in the driveway and seems to go around the property and into the back garden, before snaking back out to the front of the property. They do a really good job of different sections, with things like a monstrous scientist and his experiments, a carnival, a witch's grotto, and more. They also have a 2019 video which was filmed during the night, but I'd actually say the 2018 one was a little better. There are some fantastic bits to the 2019 video, particularly the carnival, but it doesn't necessarily seem as organised as the 2018 walkthrough, and that's by no means a negative criticism. It's more my OCD kicking in, but I encourage you to check out both videos. Both are fantastic UK home haunts in their own right. In fact, I think I'll link both of them into the description. Next on our ghoulish dive into the world of home haunts, we have another video from Epic Home Haunts. This one goes back to 2019 on a visit to Beware the Dark Realm, a great home haunt built on a driveway in California. The first thing you'll notice is that the whole front of the property has been transformed into a castle. Yet again we have an amazing example of what can be achieved at home. Obviously it takes time and money, so I'm not expecting any of you to watch this and then go build the same thing. But I really hope these inspire your twisted minds and show you what you need to push your build to the next level. Our last home haunt is from Haunter Chad on YouTube, where we look at his Nightmare on Palmerville home haunt. I really liked this one, particularly for our group, as it's a relatively simple but well done front garden display with 2 small walkthroughs, but it's also crammed full of some great DIY props. It's a 7-minute video with a load of really cool ideas, and my favourite is a particularly wicked doll that appears toward the end of the video. Haunted Chad has some other videos on his channel, including a series of haunt building videos where you can go behind the scenes of a Nightmare on Palmerville and get a good look at the set building, reviews of store-bought props, and if you want to make yourself jealous of the Americans, he also has store tour videos. I really recommend checking out A Nightmare on Palmerville. It really is a great one for getting your mind crawling with creepy prop ideas. That brings us to the end of this week's segment. Join us next time when we'll be picking up 3 more haunts to infect your brains with more haunting inspirations. Haunt Tips. Welcome back to Haunt Tips, my fiendish friends. This time we have something a little different. We're going to be talking about the legal side of the home haunt today. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, the legal side. But we unfortunately live in a time where any blame is a claim. And lucky for us, we have people like Peter Lawrence, who's taken the time to research all about it and has put together a nice document for us all. I'm going to go through a watered down version with you now, but just to get the basics down and hopefully give us all an understanding of where we stand should some clever numpty try it on. The full document, from Boo to Sue, will be made available for group members, so if you can't find it, please feel free to ask. There is about to be a little bit of legal jargon, so bear with me through this. Firstly, I do need to point out that this is simply information for you as a home haunter. This is in no way official legal advice. Should you find yourself in a position of someone attempting to make you liable, then legal advice from a lawyer, solicitor, etc. should be sought out. Basically, it comes down to 2 legal acts. The Occupiers Liability Act of 1957 for lawful visitors, and the Occupiers Liability Act of 1984 for persons other than visitors. Under these acts, you do not have a duty to prevent all accidents, but you are obliged to exercise reasonable care for the safety of visitors to your property. Basically, it's not up to you to think of every single scenario. You can't help it if someone slips on discarded rubbish, for example, but you can maybe set up a route that doesn't require someone to go through a slip hazard like a muddy patch, for example. Here's a list of things to look out for and examples of how to prevent them. Sorry if it feels like we're teaching you to suck eggs, my ghoulish listeners, but if this list helps you stay out of a courtroom, then I guess it's kind of worth it. Slips, trips and falls. Haunted houses, home haunts, Halloween displays, walkthroughs, whatever you want to call it. They are dark and eerily lit places, so be sure to keep walkways well clear of any debris or hazards, be that leaves, rubbish, tools, your kids' toys, or maybe the floor is wet from a mister or sprayer, and make sure that walkways around your home haunt that are on your property are also clear. Carbon monoxide poisoning. Many of us use a fog machine and these can involve interesting chemicals. Only use fog machines in a well-ventilated area, as carbon monoxide can quickly build up to dangerous levels. Exposed screws, etc. Exposed nails, screws, etc. can easily cut or scrape you and your guests. So even when we're hastily whacking a nail into the wall at the last minute, make sure it's not sticking out at all. Be sure to do a lap of your setup and props and make any changes you may need to do. Hauling props. Make sure all props are secure and weighted down if necessary. Moving props and props that may get knocked down by trick-or-treaters in some cases can be quite weighty. If you are someone that has rules on display, then be sure to state that anyone that pulls on, touches or breaks props is solely responsible for that if there is an accident. Trampling. If you're someone that has people go through your haunt in groups, you may find that a scare causes them to run. They may push or shove each other. You can't control everything your visitors do, so make sure that walls and props in those kind of areas can withstand something like this. Overcrowding. If you're a covered or enclosed haunt, make sure only a certain number of people can go through at a time. If something goes wrong and you have too many people in your haunt, it's not going to end well. Obviously, COVID-19 is still an issue, so if you have an enclosed or covered walkthrough, then you may wish to provide hand sanitizer and ask visitors to wear a face covering. Obviously it's not obligatory, but might be a good idea. There are other things that should be on this list, but honestly I'm running out of time today, so if you read through the document prepared by Pete, you'll find the full list and more detailed descriptions, suggestions on how to deal with each point. As important as all these preventions are, it's also a good idea to have a disclaimer and or warning sign posted at your entrance. If you have actors in your haunt, you could always have one of them quickly list off any disclaimers or warnings at the beginning of your haunt, as these can rule out a lawsuit or claim against you under the assumption of risk. The assumption of risk basically means that if you have warning signs, etc., your visitors should be aware of what they're getting into, and that, for example, it could be dark, they may be frightened, or people around them may get scared. Legally, there are two ways for people to agree to assumption of risk. Number one is implied assumption. There is nothing in writing, but the visitor's words or behaviour shows their willingness to take part. And number two, expressed assumption. Expressed assumption means that the visitor has signed the document and acknowledges that they understand the risk and agree to take no action should something go wrong. Lastly, let's actually take a moment to understand what negligence would be in this situation. Most haunters should maintain their attractions to protect visitors from unreasonably dangerous conditions that could result in injury. By unreasonable, the court means the harm is foreseeable. If there's a known problem and you leave it thinking it will be fine and someone gets hurt, then you're legally responsible for that through negligence. If you're someone that has actors in your haunt and they do something wrong, you as the owner of that place are also responsible. Wow, what a ride that was, eh? I think that was more terrifying than anything else that's on the show this week. But seriously, if you have a larger haunt that attracts a good number of people, you should definitely be checking out From Boo to Sue by Peter Lawrence. I'll try my best to get it onto the UK Halloween prop makers group, but if not, ask one of us in the group and we'll get a copy sent to you. Now after all of that, I think I need a drink, so be sure to check us out next week for more haunt tips.
Wretched Review.
Welcome back to the Scream Room, my delightfully devilish listeners. This week we have a great trilogy of horror tales for you on the Wretched Review. We've been watching Netflix's adaptation of the long-standing R.L. Stine book series, Fear Street.
Dude, what the hell?
This is exactly why you have no friends.
Look, some gal killed a bunch of people at the mall last night.
Holy shit. Another shady side tragedy. Fits the narrative, right?
Sarah Fear's back. Christ, not you two.
There's no angry dead witch. The only thing that made him go crazy is this town.
The dude was wearing a Halloween skull mask. How is that not fun? Guys, I think there's someone in the woods.
We're together for one night and dead people are trying to kill us. Maybe we are doomed.
She was so sexy, but so crazy.
Normal bitches don't bleed black blood.
How do we not die? I'm looking at you, witch nerd.
You can't stop it.
There will be spoilers ahead if you've not seen this already, so go watch first before listening to the segment. 3-second warning. 3, 2, 1. Good. We start with Fear Street 1994, where the film opens in Shadyside Mall, and we meet bookshop employee Heather, as played by Maya Hawke, who a lot of you will recognise from the last season of Stranger Things. The whole scene is a nice tribute to the start of Wes Craven's 1996 masterpiece Scream, so I don't need to tell you much more for you guys to figure out how the scene ends. But Heather is working the end of the day and closing up the shop when she is attacked by someone in a black robe and white mask, though this time it's a skull mask, not Ghostface. She manages to get a call out to the emergency services but is cut off quite quickly and is chased around the mall until her attacker does inevitably stab her. A lot. Though she manages to remove the mask and reveals her friend and fellow mall employee Ryan is under there. But his face looks vacant. Possessed by something or someone, maybe? Just as he is about to make his final blow, Ryan is shot dead between the eyes by the local sheriff, Nick Good. This whole opener is full of so many Easter eggs and references that you'll likely miss them on the first viewing. It's little details, little things like a selection of Fear Street titles being in the bookshop, but with the author name Robert Lawrence on the cover. Robert Lawrence is in fact what the RL stands for in R.L. Stine. There's a ton of neat little details like this throughout the trilogy. Once we get into the movie, we meet the real heroine, Dina, played by Kiana Madeira, a no-nonsense but full of teen angst kind of girl, and she is writing an angry letter to her ex, Sam. She lives with her brother Josh, played by Benjamin H. Flores, and an absentee father. We don't meet their dad, but we're led to believe he exists. Josh spends his time on the early AOL chat rooms, specifically an AOL chat room dedicated to the murderous history of Shadyside. His interactions are with a user called Queen of Air and Darkness, and they discuss the history of the killers that goes way back, like the Milkman of 53, or Ruby Lane, who went on a killing spree in 1965. We see Josh and Dina go to school, and learn that Heather's locker was next to Dina's. At school we also meet a couple more of our characters, Dina's friends, Kate and Simon, played by Julia Rowold and Fred Heschinger respectively. We learn that Dina is in the school band, and that the band is taking part in a sports event in the rival town, Sunnyvale. Dina is thinking of not going, as Sam now goes to Sunnyvale School, and she doesn't want to see them, but she goes anyway. It's during a candlelight vigil in remembrance of the Shadyside Mall victims that Dina notices a jock making out with a cheerleader. He's getting a bit handsy, and we realise that this must be Sam, which upsets Dina, and she then leaves. She stops against a wall in a walkway, and we flash back to Sam, and this time there's a little more focus on the cheerleader, and we start to wonder which one of the pair is Sam. A female voice calls to Dina, and there we meet Sam, the cheerleader, as played by Olivia Scott Welsh. It's a nice little twist that I guess shows we shouldn't assume. It's not some woke thing that's shoved down our throats. Both actresses play a really believable relationship between the two characters, and it's not something the movie tries to make a big deal of. It just is what it is. Now all the main characters have been mentioned, I won't say too much more detail story-wise, but needless to say, Sam becomes the prime target of the legendary Shadyside witch, Sarah Fear, who is resurrecting and possessing previous Shadyside killers from beyond the grave, in a bid to hunt down Sam and those that try to protect her. We get some really gnarly kills in this movie, including one that involves a bakery counter's bread slicer. The gang realises that Sam has to die to stop what is happening, and so they do it. They come up with a plan to drug her and drown her to end the curse, before pumping her heart with adrenaline and reviving her. They do succeed, and we think all is well until once back home, Dina gets a call from C. Berman, a survivor of the 1978 Camp Nightwing massacre, who Dina had tried to contact earlier in the film. Berman tells Dina it's never over, and Sam then attacks, now seemingly possessed by the witch, and that's where we end Fear Street 1994. Fear Street 1978 opens where 94 ended. Dina has now managed to tie up the possessed Sam, and she and her brother head to C. Berman's house to get her help dealing with the situation. C. Berman starts to tell her story to Dina and her brother, and the movie shifts back to 1978 and to Camp Nightwing. Ziggy Berman, played by Sadie Sink of Stranger Things fame, is a bit of a hard-done-by moody teenager. People find her weird, and they do bully her because of it, while older sister Cindy Berman, portrayed by Emily Rudd, is a pretty, preened, popular girl. 1978 does a good job of being split between the two sisters, and we spend a lot of time with Cindy, who ends up stuck with the pretty annoying Alice, played by Ryan Simpkins. Alice tries too hard to be edgy and cool, and it's as annoying in the movie as it is when someone in real life tries to be like that. They end up trapped in some tunnels, where they stumble across the Devil's Heart, a large beating fleshy mass that is rooted to the ground in the middle of the tunnel system, and produces a black slime that materializes into the past Shadyside killers. Cindy's boyfriend Tommy becomes possessed and starts his very violent killing spree at Camp Nightwing, becoming the next of the Shadyside killers. He eventually catches up to Cindy and the now redeemed but rather injured Alice, who Tommy proceeds to gut. While in the tunnels, Alice had found the hand of Sarah Fear, something that she had apparently removed to show her dedication to the devil back in 1666. Cindy and Sister Ziggy try to return the hand to the rest of Sarah Fear's body, which is supposed to be buried under a large tree that was once used for hangings, but the body is not there, and Tommy, now joined by other Shadyside killers, keeps coming. Cindy allows herself to get caught by Tommy to allow Ziggy to escape, but she is also caught by the milkman of 1953. Once both girls are dead, the killers disappear, and a then teenage Nick Good, the sheriff in 94, manages to revive Ziggy with CPR. Once the emergency services arrive, we realise that Ziggy is also C. Berman, her real name being Christine. Ziggy is a nickname because of her love of David Bowie. We then figure out that Ziggy in 1978 and Sam in 1994 are the main targets of the killers in each movie, as they both happen to drop blood on the bones of Sarah Fear. In 1978, Ziggy bleeds on the hand found in the cave, and in 1994, Sam's blood drips onto the rest of Sarah Fear's skeleton after a car accident. Ziggy finishes the story by saying that the cycle can't be stopped until the hand is returned to the body, but Dina remembers the skeleton they found during the aforementioned car crash. They then do what they need to do and return the hand to the skeleton, but when Dina touches it all, she is transported back to 1666, seeing everything through the eyes of Sarah Fear. Fear Street 1666 starts in the settlement of Union, a village that will one day become Shadyside. The teens of Union just want to get high on berries at campfire parties, but the religious crazies that dominate the colony won't allow it. The settlement's food is poisoned, fruit is rotting, and everything else is turning to mold. They're cursed by the devil, and the local holy man goes nuts. He gathers the village children into the church and murders them all, removing their eyes before then removing his own, and giving a rather spooky sermon that ends with him slitting his throat. During a town meeting, the teens are blamed for the evil things happening in the village, and a young man, Caleb, takes the stage, blaming Sarah Fear and her friend Hannah, claiming to have seen them getting sexy with the devil. Really, he is making this claim because Hannah told him no at the last gathering, and he was left being laughed at by a crowd of people, as he quite obviously had a boner for her. Secretly, Sarah and Hannah are in fact lovers, and during the gathering, they did go off and spend a little alone time together. But this was seen by the religious drunkard Mad Thomas, and he jumps on the bandwagon, claiming them to be witches. Hannah is captured quickly, but Sarah goes on the run, seeking refuge with family friend Solomon Good, ancestor to 94's Sheriff Nick Good. Sarah soon discovers that Solomon is the one responsible for the evils in the settlement, performing devil worship in the cave network we saw in 78. Sarah loses her hand in the tunnels while trying to flee Solomon. She is just about to let everyone know the truth when Solomon grabs her and yells to the others that he's found her, and makes everything out to be her fault. Sarah and Hannah are taken to the large tree to be hung, but Sarah takes sole blame to save Hannah. She claims to indeed be the witch, but says she put Hannah under a spell. She then curses the village. Hannah is spared, but Sarah is hung. And while her friends don't know about Solomon, they know Sarah wasn't a witch. Sarah's friends move her body to the location Dina finds it in 94, so that she may rest. This part of the movie ends, and we cut back to a new title card reading Fear Street 94 Part 2. Dina, Josh, and the adult Ziggy gain the help of mall janitor Martin, now armed with the knowledge that the Good family, with the help of the devil, are responsible for all the evils in the town. They set up a trap in the mall that lures in both Sheriff Good and all the Shadyside killers. We get some awesome scenes, including a brawl between several of the past Shadyside killers. Dina ends up in those damn tunnels again, and with Sheriff Good on her tail. She ends up triumphant by stabbing Sheriff Good in the head, straight through his eye. The Shadyside killers disappear, and Dina and Sam can finally be together, as if their love story was somehow tied to that of Sarah and Hannah all those years ago. They all go off, apparently happy ever after. Josh even gets to finally meet Queen of Air and Darkness from his AOL chat room, but we get a mid-credits stinger that suggests maybe it's not all over after all. I've got to say that I might have some details wrong. I did watch them all back to back, and with this long COVID crap I've got going on, my short-term memory's not very good. Some of the plot points might not be quite right, or they might be in the wrong place, particularly with parts 2 and 3 jumping back and forth. I really enjoyed these overall though, and Fear Street does a great job with nostalgia, the kills, the story, and the characters. Overall, Fear Street teaches us a few things. The victors write the history books, it's okay to accept you for you, and the ones shouting monster may well be the monsters themselves. If you haven't seen it already though, and I know I've just told you a ton about it, but go to Netflix and check out the Fear Street trilogy. They're a really good set of horror movies, and collectively they get a solid 4.5 out of 5 from me. Props for props. Ah, so you've returned to props for props, have you? Looking to find more positive musings about another prop built in the UK Halloween prop making group? Well, good, because that's exactly what we have for you. This week, I'm giving props to a pair of clown shoes, as made by Gary Michael Cross back in September. Yep, clown shoes. Sounds really simple, and I guess it is, but I love how they came out. We have a pair of size 11 work boots that were found at a charity shop. They've been painted bright yellow, and EVA foam was used to make the rather large toe box for the boots, and the foam was also added to the heel. The foam sections are then painted in a bright red, and some yellow stars are added to the toes. Gary's then finished the boots with some red laces that he's picked up on eBay. The completed shoes look great, and I hope Gary has some pics of the shoes in use come Halloween. I know they're just shoes, but I really like what he's done. They made me think of the sort of thing that you'd have seen in the kids' horror shows when I was growing up. Things like Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps. So, I guess you got me with that nostalgia. Either way, great work, Gary, and I look forward to seeing what you have for us next. This was a short but sweet one this time, boils and ghouls, but be sure to come back next time to see what we've dug up for props for prop.
Terrifying tutorials.
This week on Terrifying Tutorials, we're going to show you how to raise the Walking Dead and fill your haunts with zombies. I've got some awesome how-tos lined up for you, so let's not waste any more time and get straight into it with our first tutorial. First we have a zombie pit, a nice easy build that most of us can do. Zombie pits can be super easy. A pallet, a bit of red paint and some cheap zombie hands. Or you can go as advanced with them as you like. Add lights, add a little extra detail, or even a fog machine. This tutorial from Mark Doring on YouTube adds more than just the basic stuff. A frame is built around the pallet so that he can stand it up, and the end result looks pretty cool. I built a version of a zombie pit, though I didn't use a pallet that time. I instead used up a load of scrap wood that I had lying around. But it really is a nice simple prop to add to your haunt, so if it's one you're interested in, this video is the one to check out. Now we have a tutorial for building your own freestanding zombie with PVC piping. And even better, creeps, it's a double feature. This two-part tutorial from Haunt Former takes you through the whole process. The materials you need, how to put it all together, making a head and hands, dressing the zombie, and detailing. They do a really good job of guiding you through the process, and if you're looking to build some zombies, I highly recommend this pair of videos. Next up is a great video from Undercover Monster, where they show you how to detail zombie clothes, including some really awesome tips on spraying a few mixes of dyed water to really add some grotty looks to your zombies. The final product is some really cool looking zombie clothing, so now you have the perfect outfits for dressing your PV pipe zombies from the last video. This next one is really cool, and though it's an animated prop so it is a little higher on the skill tree, but we have a fence banging zombie from Falcon Cemetery. This one involves building that PVC zombie again, but this time you also build a fence panel for the zombie to cling to, and you finish it all off with a motor that swings the fence back and forth, so the zombie looks like he's trying to get through the thing. These are really fun props, and this 10-minute tutorial does a really nice job of guiding you through it all. Lastly for today, we have a starter prop for many a home haunter, the Groundbreaker zombie. If you don't know what a Groundbreaker is, they are zombies or skeletons that are normally sticking out of the ground. You usually find really basic versions of them in the shops, normally a pair of forearms and a head that you stake into the ground. This 13-minute video from Monster Misfits takes us through the process of building a really good looking Groundbreaker. This one is basically the whole top half of the zombie. This is a static build, but if you wanted to try, there are tutorials for pneumatic moving Groundbreakers out there too. And that's it for our list, so be sure to claw your way back to us next week for more terrifying tutorials. We've come to the end of another Spookfest. I don't know about you guys, but the weather has put a stop to my prop building this last week, so hopefully the coming one will be a little kinder. But before I get back to building, Hallowscream is always looking to improve, so please leave any comments, suggestions, etc. you may have in the comments, or get in touch on the UK Halloween prop making group if you're a member. Once again, I'm going to put out there that if anyone is interested in hosting a segment, then please get in touch. It would take that tiny bit of weight off of my shoulders and allow me to put more time into editing and making the show sound that much better. If you've enjoyed listening, then please rate the show, hit that like button, subscribe, or whatever else is you can do on the platform of your choice. But now it's time for me to return to the crypt, my fiendish friends. So until next time, stay scary.